Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation today. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First, let's give you an update about this winter storm that has slammed the East Coast. We'll bring your thoughts and your ideas into the conversation as we talk about what's going on from Buffalo all the way down the coastline. It's crazy right now. And I hope folks are staying safe, but we'll bring you the latest. Also, let's talk about immigrants being bused to Philadelphia, as well as immigrants being bused again to Vice President Kamala Harris's home. We'll have that conversation. Plus, let's talk about the cultural implications of Kwanzaa, how the White House has acknowledged the week-long celebration. And I'm just wondering, is there any way that we can start truly living the principles of Kwanzaa? And I got to talk about how hip-hop artist Meek Mill has done something special for the holiday season. Stay with us, all of that, and of course, your thoughts and a whole lot more on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's ready to go. I'm ready. Folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation today. First and foremost, I hope you enjoyed and had gotten some rest from the holiday weekend, folks. There was a lot of folks that were trying to get things done and moving around, and then Christmas ended up on the weekend, and it just changed everything. And not only did it change everything for how people moved around, it changed how people were able to travel. Now, if you have not heard, there has been a major snowstorm that had slammed the East Coast all the way from New York all the way down to the coastline, and places that you did not expect that would actually got cold, like places such as Atlanta and other spaces in other cities around the South. But the big story is that this winter storm has done a brutal beating on the coastline. Let me just bring you up to speed on this situation, and then we're going to be checking in with one of our online culture crew members, Taylor Ferguson, to get her take on it. And she's in Pennsylvania, and had to deal with everything there. But check this out, folks. That this storm, the death toll right now, according to the latest reports, we're looking at 52 people have died as a result of this winter storm that has swept across the U.S. over the weekend, with 28 deaths just in New York's Erie County. Now, Buffalo, New York was buried by up to 50.3 inches of snow, folks. I'm not even joking. 50.3 inches of snow, slammed to, of course, with fierce blizzard conditions throughout Buffalo. The Arctic blast had caused holiday travel to come to a halt. 3,000 flights have already been canceled as of today, this afternoon. So flights cannot move around the country. You're talking about Southwest, Delta, United. Flights have all been canceled at least until the end of this week, December the 31st. So for those who are traveling, who are trying to get back home, trying to prepare for the next phase of the holiday season, which is the celebration of New Year's, it has been a wreck, absolute wreck. But our hearts and prayers, first and foremost, go out to those who have lost a loved one in this winter storm. I want to bring in online culture crew member Taylor Ferguson. She's checking in from Pennsylvania, from Philadelphia. Taylor, good to see you once again.
How are you?
I'm good. So the situation in this storm, I know I moved from the East Coast to the West Coast, Taylor. So I know there's a lot to be said about that, right?
I'll let you slide because we're on TV.
Thank you. I'm telling you, I checked back to family back at home in Baltimore. They were looking at like single digits for the weather. 7, 8, 9 degrees. Some days 12, 13, 14 degrees. I'm blown away by the massive storm, and it just feels like doesn't matter how many times you might put out alerts and warnings. It doesn't matter how many times you try to tell people to get prepared. This thing still hits you in a way that you almost feel shocked and surprised. What's been happening in Philadelphia?
So first it was a whole bunch of rain. Like it was like basically flooding type rain. Like it was really, really bad. The first couple of days it wasn't cold, but it was like cold. Like I can't really explain it because it was like really cold, but it wasn't like extremely cold yet.
Right.
But then once the weekend kind of slid through, it went like the temperatures dropped drastically. Like it went from I think 30 something to 12, and then overnight it was like 5. For Saturday and Sunday it was like in the negatives. Like it was like 4, but then it felt like -2 outside.
Wow.
Like puddles would be out there, and the moment you go right back outside, it would be like a frozen sheet on top of it. Like it was really, really cold. It didn't matter how many layers you had on, you were freezing. And it was really crazy. Like it was unexpected, but I mean it was really, really cold. We got a couple showers of snow. And then towards the end of it, it was like, I don't know, like the weather was on its period or something. Because 1 minute it was snowing, the next minute it was raining, the next minute it was sunny, next minute it was cloudy. And it was just like, okay, can you make up your mind?
Yeah. This is and some people would ever go as far as to say, Taylor, that this is kind of unprecedented. I mean, I don't know if that is the case, considering that it's still winter. I mean, it is winter. This is the winter time for a lot of cities, especially on the East Coast. So I don't know if it's unprecedented, but what we see in Buffalo, I mean, you have 50 inches of snow falling in a single city during a weekend period. Now that may be historic. I believe that and I read the reports over the weekend, it was saying that this is one of the worst snowstorms in Buffalo's history for the past 50 years. Take a look at some of these images, folks. I mean, I could not imagine. And if you are in Buffalo right now, again, my heart and prayers, but most importantly, follow the directions, folks. That this situation is not something to be played with. And I'm blown away to see 50 inches of snow falling on the ground. I would not know what to do. I don't care whether I'm in Los Angeles or Baltimore. 50 inches is 50 inches. I don't know what to do. Do you where now? Most of your family are in Philadelphia, or are they like in different parts of the country?
I have family here. I have family in Virginia. Okay. And I have family in Florida. So I know in Virginia it was kind of bad, but it wasn't, or at least in the part that they were in, it wasn't as bad.
Yeah.
But in Florida, I know that they were kind of going through it a little bit.
Yeah.
First they had like those hurricanes that were coming through, and now this is kind of just like, I want you to come back to Philly. Like that's all that I can think. Just come back to Philly.
Right. And I think the other part is, and then we're going to go take some comments from our online culture crew, but I think the other part that we got to look at is the impact that this has had on the airline industry. 3,000 flights have been canceled as a result of it. Folks can't even move around. They're stuck. Essentially, people are stuck in airports because so many flights have canceled. Take a look at this, folks. This is coming from CNN. This was updated just earlier this morning. Where Southwest is dominating share of cancellations within, into, or out of the United States since yesterday. 73% of those flights were canceled yesterday, 87% today, and they're expecting 99% being canceled tomorrow, Taylor. So this is just from Southwest. So many people use this airline. I mean, they have the rates, they have the incentives, and all of those great things. But this is the airline that is really feeling the brunt of this winter storm.
Yeah. I think that's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I have been in situations and over the past, couple of years, traveling back and forth to California. We've had, and this was before any crazy weather, we had to we had a flight cancellation for 2 days.
Oh.
And it felt like 2 years. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, yeah, the airline put you up in a hotel, but you still don't feel like at home. And my heart really goes out to all of those folks because, you know, when you want to get home, you want to get home. And it's just that simple. It's just that simple. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's take some comments from Online Culture crew members. Folks, y'all are checking in, sharing your thoughts, sharing your stories, and we would love to highlight what folks are saying. So stay with us. We got a lot to cover here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, we've been giving you an update on this winter storm that has slammed the East Coast, where cities across the coast are still trying to figure out how to manage all of this snow, especially in the state of New York, where in Buffalo, where they have experienced 50 inches of snow over the Christmas weekend. And officials are trying to figure out the best ways that they can dig the city of Buffalo out, as well as other cities across the country along the East Coast. And many people are just jammed up, especially in the airports. Thousands of flights have been canceled as a result of the winter storm. Now, we saw that Southwest Airlines has put out a word that's saying that some of these flight cancellations will cause people to be held up for at least 4 days. 4 days, folks. I want to bring in Online Culture crew member Taylor Ferguson. She's an activist, and she's checking in from Philadelphia right now. 4 days. That's the word that's been put out to the public, Taylor, about Southwest. Now, again, Southwest is just one of the many airline companies that have to make some major changes. United, Delta, all of your major airlines have basically stopped their stop with the flights, and even going into, you know, some of the big airports such as Atlanta's airport, which is a major hub for the country, especially on that side of the country. You know, you have Dulles and BWI in Baltimore, and so this has caused a lot of heartache, a lot of headache, a lot of pain for a lot of people who've been wanting to get home to celebrate New Year's celebration. And here's the other thing very quickly, Taylor. You know, when you talk about climate change in this country and people don't understand how serious the situation is, just reflect back on what's going on in this storm. This is a result of the climate.
Yep.
And we're seeing it more and more. The weather is becoming more and more unpredictable than I would say over these past 10 years than they have probably been over the past 20 to 30 years. I just have never seen weather like this before in my life. What's your take on that?
I feel like if the snowstorm that was in Texas and Louisiana and all down there in the South wasn't a wake-up call to you, then I don't know what will be. Because the fact that it was so icy and like so frozen in places that are usually like 100 degrees, that should have gave you a wake-up call that climate change is an actual thing. But
Yeah.
I mean, since it doesn't affect everybody doesn't see it that way. So if you're on the East Coast and you're seeing it now, that should definitely be like, okay, since when was it going to be -5 degrees outside? Since when was I going to see 50 feet of snow outside of my door, let alone have to shovel it?
No, that's a big question. That's a big question. And I think that's why we need to have a bigger conversation about climate change. And, I know that a lot of young people, especially, the next generation like yourself and others are saying like, you know what? I don't want to have to deal with this stuff when I get 30, 40, 50 years old. We need to figure something out. Let's go to some of the online culture crew and hear what they got to say, because folks are checking in right now. Ming Lee, Natasha Surge, you shared this story, which is a very unfortunate story. And I think that we may hear more stories like this, unfortunately, when you said, I heard on the news this lady's husband had a heart attack and the ambulance couldn't get to him. He died. The wife stayed in the house 2 days with her husband's dead body before she can get help. Wow. That's traumatizing. I mean, it's wow. Absolute wow. Jeez. Ming Lee, thank you so much for sharing that. And that gives you that right there, Taylor. For me, it is not just a snowstorm. This is a situation that can truly be a situation of life versus death.
Yes.
And so when you hear stories like that, and I've heard these type of stories, I mean, what can you do? You know what I mean? Our condolences go out to that family for losing that man.
That's traumatizing.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And you have to stay in the house
with the body.
With the body. And that can decompose. I mean, it's...
Imagine the smell in that house.
I could not imagine. Conscious Thoughts, you checked in and said, what the U.S. experienced weather-wise was the exact scenario of the movie The Day After Tomorrow. Climate change is real, and Mother Nature is echoing her theory to us. Very real. Super real. And you still got some people that might say, well, this was a fluke. And I'm going to say, oh, this ain't no fluke. I think, unfortunately, Taylor, we may see more extreme weather. And they said it, when you look at the Farmer's Almanac, when you look at some of those weather scientists and other folks who study nature, they say it each and every year, things are not getting better with Mother Nature. Things are actually getting worse, right? Because of the stuff that we as human beings do to the earth.
Yeah.
So Mother Nature has a natural, I would say, a natural purification process.
Mm-hmm.
And then so when man comes into the picture and we just disrupt the natural and make it unnatural, Mother Nature say, oh, yeah, it's not good at all.
You got to remember that when you about to throw that bottle away. You got to remember that.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Janelle, you checked in. Janelle, you said The Day After Tomorrow, the film, is a very accurate description. No area is going to be safe from the effects of this. Here's the other part about that, Janelle, that I think that we all need to consider. And this is something else taken into 2023. The cities that are most affected, like Buffalo and other cities, they're going to have to pay for the damage. That's going to come out of your taxpayer, your pockets, my pockets. Any type of natural disaster damage, somebody's going to have to pay for it. When there's a natural disaster or there's a weather occurrence like this, somebody's going to have to pay for it. And that can, I remember, Taylor, years ago, they had, I think it was in New York, where they had Hurricane Sandy, if I'm not mistaken, but they had a storm, major storm, and it created such a power outage for New York City and different parts of the state. And it was like millions of dollars that were spent to try to restore, because the power situation was just so crazy. So that's the other part about this, that we could talk about climate control. We can talk about God's wrath, but guess what? Guess who's paying for it all? Guess who's paying for it all? What's the time? I mean, somebody's got to pay for this.
Yep.
The truth is power. You said, and they said the death toll is up to 54 right now. We just reported 52. Now it's gone up to 54. That's just in the short period of time that we've been on there. Truth is power. Appreciate you for that update. Real Brooklyn, you say all these stories is heartbreaking. However, this is the same song every year regarding bad weather. Airline cancellations, death in the house, stranded. What part of all of this is new news? Well, here's the thing, and I think that you bring up a good point, Real Brooklyn, bro. I think that, Taylor, we should have conversations like this just because it kind of serves as a reminder that there are human beings that are affected by this. Like sometimes I think when we talk about, weather occurrences, natural disasters, we talk about it in a very very distant way, as if people's lives aren't upended as a result of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it is important that we do keep in mind that, we could talk about the inches of snow, the feet of snow. We could talk about the cost and everything. But at the end of the day, can you imagine one day you live in your life and then the next day you like, oh, okay, we got some bad weather coming. We'll close the doors, boom, boom, boom. And then you wind up and it becomes this whole other thing. And it becomes this life-changing event.
Yep.
That you will never forget.
Yep.
And then it serves like as a marker for this life. So it's like before the storm of 2022, after the storm of 2022. You know what I mean? It becomes this whole other thing. It takes on this new identity. What's your take on that?
So it reminds me of how I used to live in New Orleans, and I had to hear all about everybody's Katrina stories since I was, I didn't really know firsthand how everything was going. So when I finally got down there and I spoke to people who were like there for it, or let alone see how the environment looks after the fact, it's just like, it's so much pain, suffering, money, and effort that has to go into that just for the aftermath. And it's like, I'm sure that the people who live there did not expect for it to be that bad. The same with the other hurricane that happened last year. I don't remember the name, but I was there for that one. And coming from the East Coast where it's not really situations like that, and then going down to South where there's things like that, I was panicking because I was just like, I just went from being in my apartment, being with my dog, chilling and, rocking out, to now I have to get all of my stuff and evacuate, make sure that I unplug my things so that, my apartment doesn't catch on fire. Like it's really a life change. It's really something that you could never expect. And it does get downplayed a lot. It definitely gets downplayed, especially if it hasn't happened to you. If you're not somebody who's been affected by things like that. Like, yes, there's things like that happen in Florida, but it's also people in Florida who haven't experienced that before. If you get what I'm saying, like they're in a part of Florida where that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
So it may get downplayed, but it's definitely a serious thing. Weather is crazy.
Yeah. And it makes you feel, it's one thing to have a situation that really impacts and affects your life where you feel like you could have stopped it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If you're the victim of a crime or something where it's a little bit more manageable and understandable, like maybe I could have intervened, maybe I could have did something different. It's another thing that when you have a situation like this and you literally are helpless, you don't have, there's nothing that you can do. There's not enough boards that you can put on the windows. There isn't enough coverage for your body. There isn't enough. I mean, there's literally nothing that you can do. You are only hoping and praying that you're going to get through this moment.
Yeah. Right?
Because nothing that's going to be done. There's no power much greater than stopping snow from falling. As technologically advanced as we are as a country, we haven't stopped the snow from falling, the sun from shining, and from rain from drizzling.
From falling? Yeah.
Right. We haven't done nothing. So you really are helpless. And it's a very, very interesting place to be as a human being, thinking that you got control. And then in moments like this, you don't have control. And then when you lose a loved one, it takes that lack of helplessness, that helplessness to a whole different space, to a whole different level. So it is absolutely interesting to see how this thing plays out. But again, our hearts and prayers go out to those who have unfortunately lost their lives in the storms, and to the families who've had to deal with this. Not only are they trying to dig themselves out, but now they got to grieve about the loved one. And it's a lot to carry, especially into the new year. So our hearts and prayers are about this. And folks, we'll certainly keep you posted about any new changes and developments. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want to talk about this issue of busing immigrants. Over the weekend, once again, Vice President Kamala Harris was targeted with immigrants being bused to her home. Philadelphia, they've done the same thing. We're going to check in with Taylor about that. So we got a lot to talk about with that. And plus, I'm going to talk about Kwanzaa and so much more. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, I want to switch gears from talking about the weather to talking about political stunts, or maybe it's good policy. We don't know. But the issue is that as we have been reporting and talking about over these past few months of this year, one of the big political conversations has been what to do with immigrants coming to the country. And we have known, we know that in certain states like Texas and Florida, those governors there have made an effort to take people who have migrated across the water into the country and use them as a political prop to send them to places that they don't know where they're going, and to make a political statement in the process. We saw this was happening with Governor Greg Abbott of Texas. We saw this was happening with Republican Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, and it continues to happen. Well, over the weekend, folks, it looks like this continues to be a political trend, as once again, Vice President Kamala Harris was greeted with a number of immigrants that was bused to her home this Christmas. And many people are wondering, well, what's the end goal here? What statement is going to be made here? Now, not only did that happen to the vice president, but we also are seeing cities such as Philadelphia and other cities that are saying, well, maybe we need to figure out a way to place these asylum seekers. So now Philadelphia welcomes more asylum seekers from Texas. Here to give us some insight on the politics and the behind the scenes conversation about this crazy way of dealing with immigration in this country. We've been checking in with activist Taylor Ferguson, who is in Philadelphia, to give us some updates. Taylor, what is going on in Philly? How did Philly get brought into this?
So just like you said, I honestly think that this is a political stunt.
Yeah.
I feel like because the governor and the mayor know that we do not really like them that much, that this is kind of their way of making them look better, because they're advertising it as they weren't being treated right. They're dealing with turmoil. So coming here, they'll be welcome to shelters and food and a better life and things like that. So I feel like it's honestly just so that they look good. I do think that it is a good thing to bring them here, or to bring them to any place where they'll actually be sheltered and, you know, taken care of. But I do feel like Philly wasn't genuine, like Florida.
So when you say Philly wasn't genuine, first of all, give us some backstory on this. If the people, if the Philly mayor, the mayor of Philadelphia, the state, the governor of Pennsylvania, you're saying that they have actually agreed to this?
Yes. Yes, they have. The governor came, well, he wrote, or not wrote, but he stated that this was something good for them and that they'll be given hospitality and shelters and things like this, and that they have been working on this since the summertime, which is true because they did bring it up around the summertime. It wasn't really as big of news then, but it is news now. And I won't say that the mayor's fully into it, but I feel like it's something that he's going to take advantage of because of the fact that it can make him look better. Like I said, I don't think that he's fully into it because he is just, he's another story. But I feel like the only reason why he's okay, or he is, I guess, tolerating it, is because of the fact that it will make him look good.
So if it's making him look good, but I mean, there are activists like yourself and others, not just, you know, solo activists, but organizations that are saying this needs to stop. Like what are you hearing on the ground level, you know, as folks are organizing and working to try to deal with this issue of immigration in this country?
Well, there are some immigration organizations that have, you know, put money and put effort into this. For example, like I said, they have been working on shelters for them, making sure that it's easier for them to find their families, food, just regular human necessities. They're making sure that they have them. And then, you know, it's also the people who don't know what's going on. Like, it's, the news is on, but are you really listening? It's kind of that type of situation. So yes, they know that they're here, but they don't know why. They don't understand why. A lot of people aren't very pleased because, like, we don't need more people here. Some people are confused because it's like, I mean, Philly is going through a whole bunch of gun violence right now. So why are we bringing more people here? We're already going through a crap ton of crime. So why are you bringing people who are going to be completely confused as to where they are here? So it's really just a mixed group. It's a whole bunch of people who just, it's mostly confusion. That's really
right. So these were 3 buses that were sent from Texas. They brought about 140 asylum seekers to the city last week. And then not only are they bringing them to the city, but there were children aboard one of the buses. So there are families that are there. What is the mayor planning to do? Where is he planning to put them? Because I know that in some cases they talked about, you know, the city having a partnership with a hotel, putting them in hotel spaces. Is that the solution? And is that the short term? And then what's the long term as far as you understand?
So from what I'm getting at, all that I see is that they have placed like shelter for them. Like, that's all that they're saying is shelter. So we don't know what that could be. That could be putting them up in a detention center. That could be a regular homeless shelter. Like, it can be so many things. So all I see is shelter. But I feel like this is just a short-term situation because they're sending some people to shelter, and then some people actually have family here. So they're telling you, go be with your family. Like, we don't really want you here, but go be with your family. You know, like, make less work for us and go stay with your family. I don't know if it's a hotel thing. Like I said, I think it's just they're putting them up somewhere just so that they're here.
How long? As far as you know, any timeline has been determined?
Not really. I think it's just so that you figure out what you want to do. Because I really don't think they want you in Philly.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is crazy. And folks, I want y'all to check in as we have this conversation talking about immigrants being bused to Philly. This is just the next another incident of this situation, of this political strategy. And I don't even know if it's a strategy, Taylor, to be honest with you. I feel like this is just like, I mean, let me share why I have the sentiment. Because Governor Greg Abbott went on record to say that he was doing these unscheduled drop-offs in sanctuary cities in the Northeast, including Philadelphia, to ease pressure on the border state like Texas. But there's no like where's the conversation? Like, where is hey, okay, let's figure it out, because that just doesn't make any sense. So you don't want to put an extra people in Texas. And there are a lot of people in Texas. Texas is like the outside of California. California has 39 million people in the state of California, which is on the decline. Texas, according to the Census Bureau, is looking at 30 million people. So this is Texas is the second largest state in the country. But if you're trying to ease pressure, why did you? I mean, it just seems like there's so many questions. Why did you allow this to happen? Why do you think that an unsolicited bus drop-off is good versus another place closer to Texas? It's just a lot of questions on this, Taylor.
I told you, publicity stunt. I'm trying to tell you.
And how did this work out? I mean, and the fact is, and I think this is interesting, Greg Abbott is a Republican. So let me just say, I think some people are probably like accepting, like, okay, they're going to do some wild stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the mayor of Philadelphia and the governor of Philadelphia, they're Democrats. Am I correct? Tell me if I'm wrong about that. Aren't they Democrats?
You're right. But I mean, just because of what you are doesn't mean that your actions are going to show that that's what you are. You can be a liberal, but still be doing things on the, you're not. So,
look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, I'm going to hear from my online culture crew to get their take on this, because folks are talking about it. Folks, stay with us. We got a lot to talk about here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Stay with us.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, we have been talking about how a number of buses have been traveling from Texas to Philadelphia as part of the political strategy of busing immigrants to what is being deemed as a sanctuary city. Now, this is the language that Governor Greg Abbott of the state of Texas used in describing why he decided to send 3 busloads of immigrants who had first was able to get into the borders of Texas and why he decided to move them to Philadelphia, even though some of those immigrants included children. He's saying that he wanted to ease the border, the pressure on the state of Texas, and he thought that Philadelphia would be the best place to send these immigrants that have migrated across the waters. Wow. That's what we're doing with people now. Let's bring back in activist Taylor Ferguson, who is in Philadelphia, as we have this conversation. This is the crazy part. This is really like, and I mean, I'm wondering. It was reported, and I think that this I think there's this black woman who brought this up. She said her name, well, is a person that says Blanca Pacheco of the New Sanctuary Movement of Philadelphia brings up some valid questions, saying what is hard right now is it would be really good to know what languages are people speaking, where are they coming from, and treating them in a human way, and this is not happening. I think Blanca just summarized my sentiment exactly, Taylor. Like these are still human beings. And you know, in the conversation around immigration and discussion in this country, we act as if just because you're not quote unquote from America, that you're less of a human being. Here in Los Angeles, you can't roll like that. You know, you cities across this country are becoming more and more diverse with so many different people, right? Especially some of these big cities. Mm-hmm. And so you can't move throughout the city and act as if, oh, you're from, you know, El Salvador, you're less of a human being. Oh, you're from Guatemala, you're less of a human being. Oh, you're from the Caribbean, you're less of a human being. Oh, you're from Europe, you're less. You can't move around like that.
Nope.
And I think that's the other part, that there is a human element that's missing from these conversations where immigration policy is determined, but then, you know, and then political stunts like this are made, but then you really forget, like, these are people who believe in, quote unquote, the American dream, who risk their lives to come across the waters, knowing that there is the possibility that they could be sent back home or they could die, right? They get here and they try to seek asylum. And one of our culture crew members brings up the fact that you know, you got to ask this question, you know, what are they running from? And then that will cause you, Taylor, to go into looking at what's going on in these countries, right? And more importantly, what role did America have in creating the conditions where people want to flee their homeland?
Yep.
Now that's the part. So America, we all over the place.
Yep.
We'll go into a country, we'll uproot the government, destabilize the economy,
yep,
do all of these things. And then you wonder why people want to leave and come to America. And then you get mad just because they show up at your doorstep after you just ruined it. It doesn't make sense.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't.
It doesn't make sense.
No.
Now, if this was a place, I'm sorry, what part of the world, and I'm talking about the civilized world, has America's influence and power has not impacted? Like in the civilized world, I'm not talking about some place in the darkness or something. I'm talking about where people are, where people live, breathe, and work, that America has not impacted. And it's very few places.
We are the land of the colonized. Did you not know? We are known for colonization, and that is what we do.
Exactly. So I think that that's the other part of this, is like the immigration conversation is missing. Like, okay, why are people seeking asylum in this country, right? What are they running from? Great. Why were the conditions like that in America? Now, I'm not saying it's always America's fault, but I'm saying America has put out the brand that this is still land of the free, home of the brave, that you can get a new life in this country. Nobody has taken down the Statue of Liberty. Nobody has put up a big, all right, closed sign on these borders.
Well, somebody tried, but he's not here anymore. So.
Right, he's not here, and he probably won't return. So
hopefully.
we don't know what's going on. All right, let's go back to hearing what folks are saying about this situation. You don't like my music. You say we should let these immigrants decide where they want to go. Many have family here. That's interesting. What's your take on that? That's an interesting take, because now you're giving undocumented individuals. I don't know how you can even do that. You don't like my music, because if they're coming into a new place, they don't know. I mean, yes, some of them have family here, but I don't think a lot of them have family here. But what's your take on that, Taylor? That's an interesting recommendation.
So I definitely feel like they should be able to go wherever they want. But I do feel like if you have family, then you have a better perspective, but you never really know unless you are there. Like you can see things off of social media. Like, again, like they come here and they have this expectation of, we're the land of opportunities. We're the land of this. We're the land of that. And then they come here and they're dealing with racism and taxes, really bad taxes. So it's just like, you have to be here firsthand before you know, do I want to live here? You can't just really make that decision just based off, oh, I want to go to Ohio. Oh, I want to go to LA because everybody's in LA. You can't do that. So I feel like they should be able to have the opportunity to do so. But I feel like if they are going to do that, they need to have some type of insight, come visit, something like that, and then be able to decide. I don't think we should decide for them. That's 100%.
So if it's an unsolicited situation like what we're saying with this busing issue, right? I don't know whether the UN needs to step in or Homeland Security. Like, I don't know like how America would deal with this, because it's coming. Of course, we know California, Texas, border states, Florida. I don't know if there's like and I'm just using this term very loosely, folks, but like a welcome committee. There is no welcome committee. There is no immigration committee. You have ICE. And I don't know if
that's not very welcoming.
I mean, ICE is not that welcoming if you're an immigrant, right? But I don't know there if it's the like a person or a group of persons or even an agency that can really just like, okay, we got these folks coming in. And then, you know, of course, immigration policy changes because of whoever's in office, right? The president that's in office. It doesn't change dramatically. But I don't know if there's a buffer between somebody who immigrated here, who was able to get across the border, for them to run up against ICE, or is there somebody who's just like, look, this is the situation. Like, I don't know, because it's so complex.
Mm-hmm.
It is so complex. Like and I know even what Donald Trump was trying to do, trying to create this wall and trying to get people to just stop. But it's so much bigger than that. It's not just about a physical infrastructure. I feel like there's some of course there's some other factors here that play into why immigration is such an issue for this country. And I'm not quite sure, you know, where do we start with this? Because if people are trying to really seek asylum in this country, and America has presented herself as a safe space, then can we truly get mad?
No.
That's the part about it. Like, can we truly get mad? All right, let me go back to let's go back to our online culture crew. What is this? Zelensky is a clown? I think that's the name. You said you also can't take on more than what you can currently take care of. How many homeless Americans in this country already? Facts. Look, I'm living in a city where they have over 40,000 people that are homeless. And I'm not talking about single folks. I'm talking about families. I'm talking about mothers and children. I'm talking about dads. I'm 40,000 people that are homeless. So yeah. Like that's the big part about this. And so I think that is going to be the other part about it, because real quick, Taylor, the long-term implications of bringing people in, like a city like Philadelphia, you're going to have to house them. You're going to have to find them education. You're going to have to feed them. You're going to have to essentially take care of them for the next 5 to 10 years. They may be able to add to the economy of the city. They may be able to add to the workforce, but you have to deal with it right then. You can't start shipping. If we have major cities, the mayors and governors start shipping people out of the country, that's going to create a whole nother problem. So did Philly give any indication on how they're going to deal with this?
Like I said, they said that organizations have put forth some food and shelter and water. Like, that's pretty much all that we've heard, is that they have things that are there for them when they get here, but it doesn't say for how long are they going to be here. So we might not even have enough for them prepared. So I honestly, we don't know.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. Look, well, we're going to have to keep our eyes on the situation because it is very fascinating. And I'm wondering, just out of curiosity, we got about 10 seconds. How are Black folks feeling about this situation, considering our history, and our current place in this country? Have you been able to talk to some Black folks about this?
Like I said, it's just a whole bunch of confusion. Some people really are just like, oh, okay. Or some of them are just like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So nobody really knows what's going on. We're just told these things at the last minute, or when they say something about it, we get little to no information on it.
Yeah, that is going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out.
Yep.
Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to switch gears. Let's talk about Kwanzaa and how we can live the principles of the week-long celebration. We're going to check in with my big brother, Dr. Omakongo, and we got Taylor, and of course, we got you. So stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture. I wanted to have a conversation about the great celebration of Kwanzaa, which is a celebration, the final week of the year, a celebration that has been around since the great Dr. Malanga Karenga, established Kwanzaa as a way for Black folks in the country to learn and to get rooted back into key principles of community and family. And this has been a celebration that has grown in popularity. I remember as a child, back in the 80s and the 90s, you know, Kwanzaa was sort of like an underground celebration. Now it has taken on national prominence, even so much as the president himself putting out a message of support for those who are celebrating the week-long celebration. Let me just share with you what the president said. And then we got my brother, Dr. Omakongo Debenya, and we got Taylor Ferguson, and of course we got you. Let's talk about how we can take these principles to the next level and not just talk about it for the last week of the year. But here's what the president said around the issue of Kwanzaa. He put it out there. The White House has put it out there during on a video posted yesterday, where the president and First Lady Jill Biden offer thanks for the, quote, rich heritage of African Americans, which is deep in the story of our nation. They stated that in 2023, it is our hope that we'll all remember the wisdom of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, especially the values of unity and faith, as we work to make the promise of our nation real in the lives of every American. So today I wanted to talk about this. This is the second day of Kwanzaa, so we're celebrating the great principle of Kuji Chakalia. And I wanted to bring in my brother, Dr. Omakongo Dibenge from American University. And of course, we still have Taylor Ferguson to be a part of this conversation. But brother Omakongo, good to see you again once again. So how are you this afternoon?
Oh, it's good to see you, man. Long time, man. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. It has been a minute. I always enjoy our conversations. So, big brother, let's talk about this celebration. It has kind of gained some popularity over the past few years, right? It hasn't become just like this cult following of Black folks that has said, "Oh, we're going to do this." This is a national holiday, even though it's not institutionalized, quote unquote, as a national holiday. There isn't any major like shutting down of businesses. The government never put out a proclamation or declaration saying that.
Yeah.
But it is recognized as this. First and foremost, is that a good place to be? Or should we be happy that it has somewhat of a national prominence to it?
It's like a double-edged sword. You know what I'm saying? It's like when I watched the statement by, the president as well as the vice president, yes, people can feel like there's a superficial nature to it, but at the end of the day, the quest for Black people in America has been a quest for recognition. How long have you on your show and all of us, Roland Martin show and everywhere else, had conversations about things relating to reparations and all of these things that we feel like America owes us, which they do, don't get me wrong. It comes down to recognition. We talk about other groups who receive apologies and different things for what they've experienced. And so part of what's going on with Kwanzaa as well as Juneteenth and the like, we have to accept this recognition, because if we're going to talk about the fact that there is no America without Black America, that Black people built this country, that we are the foundation of it, then damn it, what we do has to be recognized and honored at the highest levels. As guardians of the culture, it's up to us, however, to make sure that it does not become as commercialized as many other holidays have, whether we're talking about Christmas in terms of just people just focus on the gifts versus the actual messages of Jesus and the like. We need to make sure that we guard that in our quest to make sure that we're getting the recognition.
Absolutely. I want to play the video, and I know my team, they got the video now of the president. Let's play the video, just a little bit of what President and First Lady Jill Biden said about this national holiday.
Jill and I wish everyone a happy Kwanzaa.
During this celebration, millions will gather with their families to reflect on the struggles and triumphs of the past and look towards a brighter future. With each candle you light, we hope your home is warmed by the laughter of your family and friends. Your hands are inspired to creativity, and your heart is filled with determination, faith, and love.
We give thanks for the rich heritage of African Americans, which is deep in the story of our nation. In 2023, it's our hope that we'll all remember the wisdom of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, especially the values of unity and faith, as we work to make the promise of our nation real in the lives of every American.
May your Kwanzaa be blessed with hope, peace, and light.
Jill and I wish everyone a happy Kwanzaa.
During
this
celebration,
I'm gonna be honest with you. That's interesting.
That's a good word to describe it.
I mean,
but you gotta think about it. Like, how many times have we seen, the president and other members of Congress, whatever, do Happy Hanukkah things, Merry Christmas things, Thanksgiving things, and we've thought, what about Kwanzaa, right? And then when we see it, we can't get mad when they do it. So I'm glad that they did it.
Man. No, look, bro. I am with you 100%, and I think it shows a lot of growth. You know what I'm saying? Like it shows growth, right?
That's right.
Because we have historically been marginalized and put aside, like you said, in our celebrations and in those times where we wanted to be seen. And so for the president, for the first lady to put it out there, I mean, it's like, okay, that's interesting. But I felt like of course, it's needed, it's necessary. You got a lot of black folks in this country who are now at a space, I think, big bro, who are celebrating Christmas and Kwanzaa.
That's right. And it's important that people know that, because it's important that people know that because, Christmas is a religious holiday and Kwanzaa is a cultural holiday. So there are many black families across the country and anywhere in the world who have adopted Kwanzaa who celebrate both. And, Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu wanted a celebration and an honoring of our culture. That's why he placed it the days from the 26th to the 1st, because he wanted it to end on the new year, on the first day of the new year, to start us off in that principle of faith. And so I know it's harder for us to get that kind of national recognition because of everything going on as relates to Christmas and its history here, but he was very strategic in where he wanted the days to be placed. And so we have to honor that. And, some of us in our community think that it's a replacement for Christmas. Never has been and never will be.
Yeah, and I want to make the correction because I said Dr. Malana Karenga, and you just said Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. So
no, you're right. No, that's my mistake. I was just no. It's absolutely I'm just
like, wait a minute. I thought one of
absolutely Dr. Malana Karenga. Dr. Karenga, please forgive her, brother. I was just talking fast. I was
was like, all right. Maybe it was me, but it's cool. We corrected each other. That's good. That's all good. That's what
you just saved my career,
right? But look, you're absolutely right. Like there was a key reason why, and I think that if for families, especially black families, we have to include that as a part of the conversation, right? I remember growing up, like I say, in the 80s and 90s, where it was like almost a war between the two. It's like, no, I celebrate Christmas, you celebrate Kwanzaa, you ain't real. And then it's like, now I'm so happy that black folks can embrace both. Because I think, to your point, one of them is talking about religious holidays, and one of them, Kwanzaa could be celebrated by any black person, regardless of your religious affiliation. It's about principles of community and family.
Absolutely. And what's very interesting? I've actually had, and I don't know if this is a conversation for next year, I don't know, but I've had some conversations with some white people who have been seeing what the principles of Kwanzaa are about. And they're so frustrated with how commercialized things like, Christmas and other holidays, Easter and other holidays have become. And they're looking at the ideas that are stressed. She's like, they're talking to me about like, I need to practice these in my own family and my own community. And that's how Black culture has been, for forever. We create something and then other people start to see its value. And that's why I say we have to continue to be guardians of the culture. Because you are right. When people talk about, Christmas versus Kwanzaa, and that also had to deal with a lot of Black identity when we're going from, Negro and color to Afro-American and African-American, people that's saying, true. I ain't African, I ain't Afro-American, I'm Black, this. So we've always had these identity struggles. And I think at the end of the day, Dr. Karenga wanted us to understand that we have more things in common than we do that separate us. So let's come together and recognize those things first, and then move on with our foundation. That's, the mat, the makeka that people put on the Kwanzaa display, like I have downstairs, that's the foundation of everything that we build on for those who are into the, who know about the Kwanzaa displays. And so all of us have that foundation and we just need to celebrate it. And there's nothing wrong with people who choose to do both.
Absolutely. I know we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want to bring Taylor back into the conversation, Dr. Omakongo, and I want to talk about how do we make these principles real. And I'm saying, like, today we're celebrating self-determination, Kuji Chakalia, but I'm talking about for Black families in this country at this time in 2022, yes. How do we live these principles and make them real? I want to have that conversation up next. So folks, stay with us. We're continuing the discussion on the other side. You're tuned into The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, we've been talking about living the principles of Kwanzaa as we are in the second day of the week-long celebration that closes out the year. And we've been checking in with Dr. Omakongo Debenga, my brother from American University. We're going to bring back into the conversation Taylor Ferguson, but really talking about how do we make Kwanzaa a real experience, not just a celebration, not just a ritual, but to make it living principles, especially going into a very, very new year like 2023. Dr. Obakongo, what's your take on that? How do we start that? And then Taylor, I want to get your take. How do we make that? How do we make these principles real? We're talking about unity. We're talking about self-determination. We're talking about cooperative economics. We talk about all of these things, but to bring them home to Black folks and to use them as Dr. Karenga wanted us to use them as guiding principles for the new year. How do we do that?
The basic thing we have to ask ourselves in everything that we're doing is a very simple question. Am I centering Black people in whatever it is that I'm doing or making my best attempt to do so? So when we talk about cooperative economics, that's talking about supporting Black businesses. When we're talking about faith, that's talking about, are we going to support, are we going to have faith in our political leaders, people who are out in the community, the Farajis of the world, the Roland Martins of the world, who are working to build a Black Star Network? Are we going to have faith in that and supporting that? When we talk about self-determination, are we going to go listen to our leaders, not people who are told are our leaders? Are we going to determine who our leaders are? When we talk about cooperative work, are we really going to work together as opposed to this crap in a barrel mentality of pulling each other down? The list goes on and on. Creativity. Are we working with people in our community who are the creators, right? So if you start to ask that question, and you start to see that I haven't been working with Black people enough. I haven't been really working to bring my family together. I've been more concerned with unity at my job than unity in my household. Like those types of things. When you do that honest take, then you start really figuring out the actions that you need to really live these principles 24/7.
Absolutely. So you're talking about being intentional, Taylor. That's what I'm getting from Dr. Omakongo. He's talking about being intentional about these principles. And I think that has to become a family value. Like if you're going to talk about all of these great terms and go through the rituals of how to celebrate them, this has to be an instilled family value. What's your take on that, Taylor?
So I definitely agree with everything that you said. I feel like it's more about questioning self first before you go out and question everybody else. So it's definitely, what am I doing to help my community right now? When we, again, like you said, when it's people like Farajii, or if it's Black-owned businesses, are we going to them first before we go to the other man? Like it makes sense to be there for your people. We definitely do a lot of tearing down of each other, so that needs to stop if we're trying to actually make change within our community. Yeah. And we need to, I don't want to say cancel, but when it comes to the people who are within us that do things that reflect badly on us, we need to really have a deep conversation with them. We need to stop giving them yes men and actually tell them, yo, like, chill out.
Right.
And I definitely feel like
if they don't chill out, they get canceled. I'm with you, Taylor.
But cancel doesn't even work. That's the part. That's the part that gets me. The canceling doesn't even work because yes, you may be canceled, but I mean, is your music still playing on the radio? Aren't people still supporting you? So there is that cancel effect, but the cancel effect isn't really effective. And
let me, and that opens up the conversation, Taylor and Dr. Omekongo. When we talk about, some of our high-profile celebrities that are in our community, should we impose that? Look, y'all have to do not just more social responsibility, but I'm saying like taking these principles to the next level. Because I haven't, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen one black celebrity say "Happy Kwanzaa, everybody."
No, I haven't seen much, and we have to hold people accountable. And I think Taylor and I are saying the same thing. I think what I've taken from what she was saying is that some of these guys get to such a high profile that even if we aren't rolling with them anymore, they're not part of our community anymore. They're just black people, right? And so they become kind of uncancelable in our community because they're part of a different community. But I still feel at the end of the day, it's important for us, celebrity or not, people in our community, people in our church, whoever we're talking about, to hold people accountable to the best of our ability, because there is such a thing still as credibility that matters to us in our community. When I think about people like Kanye, sure, there are a lot of people who are still embracing him right now. I cannot, and I feel like, more people need to stand up. I mean, this is a guy who said he wants his kids celebrating Hanukkah instead of Kwanzaa so they can get that money. So it's anti-Semitic and anti-black, right? So really, at the end of the day, we have to do a better job of calling people out. But sometimes people go so far that they're so far removed from our culture because they got sources and respect from other people. But hey, respect from us still matters.
Absolutely. My sister Corinna checked in and she said we need to learn and understand our history to value a cultural celebration like Kwanzaa, right?
That's right.
This is also the time of year where children in particularly are out of school. What does that look like, Doc? When we're talking about, having those, I started having a conversation with my son about it last night, talking to him, yesterday and early in the day, and just talking to him about the idea of Umoja, which means unity, the first day. But what does that look like? Because people are still wrapped up. I mean, it's like Christmas, and then your mind is going like, okay, yeah, this Kwanzaa, but then I'm getting ready for New Year's. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So when does that level of education come, or does it need to happen way before December?
Well, I think definitely we can look at doing work way before December because, like we said, it has to be year-round, so the education has to be year-round. But when it comes to Kwanzaa time, in all of our communities across the country, Dr. Karenga was very specific about this being non-commercial. So even when he talks about the Zawadis, which is the exchange of gifts, he's talking about gifts that are handmade or have that type of original type of thought to it. So a lot of the events that are happening in our communities relating to Kwanzaa, the overwhelming majority of them are going to be free. So, my dad and a brother named Siddiqui Cambone in Boston, they started the Kwanzaa ceremonies that have been taking place in Boston for decades. And you can go out and take your kids to them. You can also, if you're at home and don't have the ability to go out, there are activities that you can do online in terms of learning about Kwanzaa. There are people out there who are putting out that information. And there's a lot of animated works out there now that talk about Kwanzaa. So depending on the age of the child, you can do that as well. And of course, you could always buy books that you bring into the house, My First Kwanzaa, these types of things, and make those the bedtime stories as well. Again, these are all things that can happen year round. But if we want to get it serious about Kwanzaa now, those are some of the things that we can do. And some of these events that are free in the community are also streamed virtually.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. And I think the other part of it is like this is the time to have those conversations, Taylor, right? Like if you don't know your history, and this is Taylor, Doc, let me just tell y'all, I've been doing black media for a long time. And black folks act like if you in front, and I tell people, I might be in front of the camera, but I don't know all black history. Do you know how much history we have in this country? Like people be like, "Hey, Farajii, you didn't know this happened back in 19?
Right. And
you're like, brother, I don't know it all. I mean, I appreciate it. I read a lot. I really do. But at the end of the day, there's so much to cover because of our 450 plus years that we've been here in this country. Like, I think we should give each other grace if we just don't know.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, and Doc, I want to get your take, and the tail, I want to get your take. Like, how do we make sure that we temper the expectations? Because some black folks will say, man, black people need to know all this history. And it's like, that's all well and good, but I've always been the one that's like, yo, is knowing this history, is it usable? Is it going to take you to the next level, or you just want to fill your head with a bunch of facts and sound very big and important? Like, I don't know, because that's always been a challenge for me in those historical conversations, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk about, Ujima, when we talk about collective work and responsibility, we got to work on building collective knowledge. When I was talking so fast to throw out Jawanza Kunjufu and you reminded me it was Dr. Malana Karenga, I didn't get offended. I didn't get mad. You corrected me, and because it was just a slip, and we keep going. But some people would, like you just said, how dare you mistake the name of the, you know what I'm saying? And that type of arrogance and ignorance, it doesn't serve the community. I'm listening to Roland Martin all the time, Karen Hunter, Joe Madison, and I'm learning stuff all of the time. And so we have to understand that, particularly when it comes to our own culture, the majority of what we learn does not happen in our K-12 or even our college curriculum.
Ooh.
So all three of us, we all know the majority of what we learned about Black people did not happen in school. So depending on where, a lot of us in my generation, we learned more Black history from hip hop. So
right.
So we have to understand that everybody's in a different space, and I got most of my history from my parents. But if other people's parents can't do that, but they're in the library, or someone else just happens to work in a bookstore and came across different books, or ran into Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, doing his work on, countering the conspiracy to destroy Black boys, and that's their entree, or Ibram Kendi, or Hannah Nicole Jones. We have to take each other where we are, so we can build a community together. All of this pointing fingers and shaming people for what they don't know, other folks are just laughing at us with that. We got to stop it. That's not the spirit of Kwanzaa.
Yeah.
Hey, Taylor, what's your take on that? Like, as a young Black woman, you're learning, you're involved in the struggle in a lot of ways, but, understanding that this thing called life and learning is a process. It's a journey. It's not just a destination.
Yep. What I've learned is that almost every moment is a teachable moment. Mm-hmm. So even if somebody doesn't really know, or even when it's times that I don't know, I'll be like, okay, can you teach me? Right. I would rather know than to look not ignorant, because there's nothing wrong with ignorance. Well, anyway, it's better to want to learn about it than to just be like, okay, well, you don't know. Well, you need to know, or blah, 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 or you need to look it up, or you need to just teach me. And then if I'm interested in it, or if I see that it's fit for me, then I'm going to keep researching it, and I'm going to find out more. And I might know more than you do at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's always better to teach somebody. If they're asking you, well, did you know about this? Or I saw this, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, I didn't even know about that. And they're ready to cuss you out about it. You're like, whoa, like, can you just show me? Or like, it's always, like I said, almost every moment is a teachable moment. So you can really teach somebody something, especially if they didn't know, let alone research it by yourself. And hip hop for me is not educational unless I want to learn how to shoot somebody.
That's why I said my generation. It's different. It's different.
Right. I'm with you, Doc. I'm with you, bro. That was a source. No, let's keep it real. That was a source. Nowadays, it's not.
Yeah, no.
Depending on the artist, it really depends on the artist. You're not dropping it like that. And guess what? You can't be mad, because history is not. Depends on whether Dr. Carr is
my goodness.
Dr. Greg Carr is brilliant.
Oh my gosh.
Like Corinna just said, he knows all Black history. I'm sure he does. Like, he studies this, right? But we need scholars like him, right? Because when an artist hears him, he can listen to the show, hear Black Table, hear Dr. Carr on RMU, and he's so inspired, and he'll drop. And do you know he'll drop a hip hop artist will drop 1 or 2 bars about something relating to Black history, and that will automatically. That's how powerful the medium is that it will spark a desire in the person listening to want to learn more. Yeah, that's how powerful hip hop music is when it's used in a very, I would say, in a more progressive and a much more better form than to weaponize violence. It's we can't get mad at the music. A lot of people got conscious through Public Enemy, KRS-One. A lot of people got conscious through Eric B. and Rakim. A lot of people got conscious through a lot of different artists. And that's okay. I never understood why people get mad at how you got conscious. The fact that you are conscious or not conscious should be the conversation, not how you got conscious through music. Yeah, I got conscious through music. That's why I ain't hit you in your mouth.
But when you mentioned Dr. Carr, one of the things that also is important to understand is that the elders have to make sure that they're reaching down. I mean, Dr. Carr was doing stuff with interviewing Tupac on stage, back in the day. He was always invested in young people. I mean, he's at Howard, invested in young people. When I listen again, Dr. Madison or Roland Martin with, all of his interns and things, right? So, the elders, when our elders are gone, that library is closed, right? So when I listen to, Dr. Joe Madison, I'm hearing Dick Gregory because Dick Gregory is one of his biggest mentors. He knew Dick Gregory since Joe Madison was 16. So I'm hearing the knowledge get passed down. When I'm on Roland Martin's show or watching Roland Martin's show and all the stuff he's seen, he's passing knowledge down to people. So the elders, and I'm not saying Roland Martin's an elder. I'm sure he probably would reject that, but I'm saying, but they have to make sure that they are doing, those who are older are making sure that they're grabbing the young people, young, however you define it, 15 or 40, and making sure that they're doing the work to pass that knowledge down, because we're losing so many of our elders, popular and not so popular in our communities, who have all of this institutional knowledge about things. And if we don't get it from them, many of, like you said, we're not, Taylor said it, we're not getting it in the music anymore. And we already know, depending on the state we live in, we're not getting it taught in our schools. We never really were. But now it's even worse, in terms of the bands that are happening in school. So all we have is the culture. All we have is the community. And all we have is the knowledge that we pass on to each other. And we got to make it important. We got to make it cool. And some people may not like me saying it. At many levels, we got to make it sexy. Whatever it takes for the knowledge to be passed on.
Hey, Doc, you are absolutely right. Taylor, why are you laughing at that, man?
I thought that was kind of funny.
You gotta be sexy, man. Hey, look, history gotta be sexy. There's a whole network that makes history look sexy.
Wow.
You gotta tell stories, right? And then you're more apt to, some people, when they see those stories on the History Channel or when they see them in documentaries, it just helps. I mean, we're all different types of learners. So history has to be made sexy in some ways. Hey, Doc, I truly appreciate you. And I'm so happy to have you on, because in our next segment, we're going to talk about our hip hop artist that is doing his part to help people. But I appreciate you so much, Doctor, for joining us. Dr. Omokongo Debenga checking in from American University, talking about living the principles of Kwanzaa. Thank you, Doc. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you. Y'all take care. See you,
Absolutely.
Taylor.
Bye.
All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about hip hop and doing some great work. So let me share with you what one hip hop artist is doing to change the game for women that have come home or who have been incarcerated. We're going to have that conversation up next. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
There's an angry pro-Trump mob stormed the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back. Wanted to have a conversation as we just talked about the importance of living the principles of Kwanzaa and the impact that music plays in folks understanding their history. It's no surprise that we are also living in a time where hip-hop artists today are taking their level of social responsibility even more seriously. And this is the case Philadelphia-bred hip-hop artist Meek Mill. Let's bring Taylor back into the conversation. And she's from Philly, and I know she appreciates this conversation. Taylor, Meek Mill. He's a guy. I've been watching Meek Mill, and of course his career has kind of catapulted. And I've seen his career catapult within the past 4 years. He has really grown in his space and more level, and I would say more importantly in his consciousness. He is, of course, being from Philadelphia. He talked about the street life for many years in his music, but then after a while, that started to change. The tone of his music started to change. He then got more into looking into the criminal justice system because he was, for 11 to 12 years, he was going in and out of the court system for a number of charges. And one of the last big cases was back in 2019, where he was in prison for a little bit, where another hip hop artist, Jay-Z, came to his defense to help get him out. And so him and Jay-Z started the Reform Organization, which is the organization to look at they call it the Reform Alliance, the organization, nonprofit organization that is working to fight criminal justice inequities and injustices that we see in the system. He has now announced that he has officially paid for the bail for 20 women so they could spend the holidays at home. And this is according to Reform Alliance organization. Take a look at that, folks. The women were incarcerated at the Riverside Correctional Facility in Philly, and they were unable to afford bail. 5 of the women were released on Saturday. 15 more will be released in the coming week. Each woman will also receive a gift card to purchase groceries or gifts for the holiday. And Meek said that his donation was informed by his own personal experience with the criminal justice system. He said, quote, "It was devastating for me to be away from my son during the holidays when I was incarcerated. So I understand what these women and their families are going through." What Meek Mill paying a bail for 20 women? All right, Taylor, what's your take on this?
Now, I'm not the biggest Meek Mill fan, which is surprising, but
okay.
I can say that I do respect this and that I really appreciate it. I think that it's a great thing that he did. I feel as if he did it for genuine reasons. I love that he went out of his way to do that, because I'm sure that, you know, right now, especially in Philly, the kids definitely need their moms, or just families in general, especially because of the crime that's going on right now. So to have them home for the holidays is definitely a great thing. Giving them money for groceries, though, now
right. That's all you had to do. That's great stuff.
That's
and
so
you know what, Meek Mill. I mean, of course, he's still an influential powerhouse in the hip hop game. But I'm seeing a change, and I know a lot of folks don't see this, Taylor. I know a lot of folks don't see that these artists today. I'm thinking of not DaBaby, Lil Baby.
Okay.
He was just awarded. He was given like a humanitarian award for the work that he does. And I think he's from the city of Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
But Lil Baby here is, I think he's in his 20s. What, he about 23, 24 years old?
I thought he was 22.
22. Okay, he's 22 years old, given a humanitarian community service award just recently because of the work that he does. Going back home, he does like these Thanksgiving dinners that he provides. He also gave a number of families laptops. I mean, there is something different. There is something different. I think he also declared that he would no longer use the B word in his music. And so I'm bringing him, yes, I'm reading, but I'm bringing him into the conversation because there is a growing trend. And I want people to just understand that a lot of these hip hop artists, these are young guys who are growing into men while on the mic. You know what I mean? And now they're starting to see some things. And I think we do have to give these artists some level of grace, because we were listening to their music at a time where they probably didn't know themselves. They didn't have a knowledge of who they were. They were not highly informed about social issues. And now as they grow up, they're in a much better space. I'm thinking about Nas as well, one of my favorite artists. He dropped King Disease 3. And, you know, he's putting out different content. These guys, Jay-Z and others, these guys are growing up and maturing. And I think that the conversation about the impact of hip hop needs to change a little bit because these guys are growing.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going on in the world around them. Meek Mill of course, he had firsthand experience with the criminal justice system. He talks about this stuff in his music. He talks about the impact of, being away from his son and all of these things. Like, they're starting to think critically, and I don't think we give them enough credit for trying to do something different.
Yep, I agree. I feel like it's some artists out there that actually are taking their experiences and they're flipping them and turning them into great things. Like Meek Mill was definitely a troublesome child, in and out all the time. And so the fact that he's able to flip his experience and try to help people who are going through somewhat of the same situation is great. Same thing with Lil Baby. I remember when he first was trying to come out, like he was like about to join a gang and was about to do this and was about to do that, but he like flipped it. And now he's, using his money to give back to his community and to not be a part of that life and show people that there's other things other than that life. And I think that that's great. I think that's excellent, especially since, it's a lot of rappers that are doing the complete opposite. They're bringing what they're used to back into the world instead of, having what they're used to and then changing it into something better. So I think that's a great thing. I love that for both of them.
I think so too. And let's keep it real, Taylor. There are forces in the industry and outside of the industry that do not want us to highlight some of the good that hip hop artists are doing, which is why I think this is part of why we created this culture, the culture as a platform, because I grew up, I'm a child of hip hop music. I grew up listening to all types of hip hop music, but at the end of the day, these are still young men. And even now we got like Little Sister with Glorilla, and you got others little young women that are coming into the space, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we got to, and I feel like we're so hard on them at times, right?
Yeah.
And you got to remember, You got to, and I always tell people, what were you thinking at 18, 19, 21 years old? Now, multiply that by getting millions of dollars, getting a lot of fame, right? You saying all types of madness on a track, right?
Yep.
So with that, it's like we gotta give because these are, in some cases, these are still babies, these are still young people in a lot of ways. Gotta give them grace.
Yep.
And you gotta hope and pray that if you come across them, give them a good word, something to think about. You know what I mean? And I think that's the part of the culture, that's the part of the community that we have to get in the space of. Like, you know, if you come across a hip hop artist, a local hip hop artist in your city or your town, like, and you hear them saying some wild stuff, like, you can pull them to the side. Like, there are a lot of these young brothers you can talk to, and these young sisters you can talk to with the right spirit, but you could drop some knowledge on them.
Yep, 100%. I can use my favorite artist as an example. Tyler, the Creator, is my absolute favorite artist. And when he first came out, the majority of his music was raunchy and crazy, and like, if he were to drop any of those songs today, he would have been canceled. He would have been blacklisted at that point. But something in him changed when he grew up that had him realize, like, this is not the life for me. Yeah, I was a teenager. Yeah, I was acting crazy, but now I'm ready to actually put something into my music and let people feel things. Yeah. Like, I feel like I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for the music of both sides of him. Yeah. Like, yes, he was weird at one point. He's still weird now, but now that he's grown and he's become somebody who is, you know, giving back or just being himself, but doing things with, you know, his experiences and the things that he's dealt with in life. It's just like, it's great. Like, it's really good. It's great when they do stuff like that. I love it.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, I got something for Trends Posting Doing the Most. We're going to check in with our final conversation with Taylor and a whole lot more. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, for our final segment today, I wanted to check in with you and let you know what was trending for Trends Posting Doing the Most. And here's a little interesting fact. Let's bring Taylor Ferguson back into the conversation. There we go, Taylor. Congress is doing something real special for the family of Emmett Till and his mother. They have posthumously awarded Emmett Till and his mother, Mamie Till Mobley, the Congressional Gold Medal, folks. How about that? The Congressional Gold Medal. The medal will be on display at the National Museum of African American History and Culture near Emmett Till's casket. This was a result of a bill that was passed by Congress on Wednesday, the bill known as the Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley Congressional Gold Medal Act of 2021 will honor the 14-year-old Black boy who was killed by two white men in 1955 after a white woman accused him of flirting with her. It was Emmett Till's death and the brutality that was imposed on him that shocked the nation and helped ignite the civil rights movement. So as a result of that, his mother making the famous insistence that she wanted the world to see what racism has done to her little boy. Jet magazine published photos of Emmett Till's mutilated body back in 1955 after it was pulled from the Tallahatchie River in Mississippi. And as a result of that, that kicked off the civil rights movement, and it took it to a whole different level. Emmett Till's mother, Mamie Till Mobley, she died in 2003. But y'all know that back in October of this year, they just released a movie called Till. The movie didn't do big numbers, but it was really the story of Mamie Till Mobley and the passion and the pain and the story that she had around making sure that her son gets some level of justice. And it would not be, I mean, even though the white woman, I forgot, Miss Bryant, was never brought to trial, there has now been new evidence saying that she essentially lied about the whole thing. But she is still out. People are still calling for her to be incarcerated, even though she's in her 90s, I believe. And so this continues to be an ongoing saga in that respect. But Congress said that this family deserves this great gold medal of honor. Taylor, what's your take on that? This is pretty interesting.
I feel like a medal is not enough. I feel like a medal means nothing until, what's her name, Bryant gets locked up. I feel like there's no justice. Just because they're getting a medal. And I understand that the movie didn't do good numbers, because at the end of the day, we're kind of tired of seeing movies of our trauma. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit and pay my money to relive something that happened and caused so many problems for somebody in my community and have their family, and let alone I wouldn't want people to have to go through the same thing over again just because somebody decided, you know what, we don't have a movie idea, so let's just rebring some Black trauma into this. Like, I don't approve. So that medal means nothing. That movie means nothing to me until that lady is served her justice. And yes, she's old, but were they saying that when Bill Cosby got locked up? Well, yeah. But I feel like
they definitely said it when Bill Cosby got locked up. Yeah. But Carolyn Bryant, and I appreciate my culture crew. Carolyn Bryant is a white woman who never saw a day in prison. She never saw a day in prison. She never was brought in. They never really questioned her. And as a result of that, Emmett Till died, but history was made. But you know, this is what America does. I mean, part of me is like, I think we already have a great respect for the life of Emmett Till. I think we already had a great respect for his mother. So I'm not surprised by this, congressional medal. I think that this situation should open the conversation about bringing people to trial after a long period of time. Like, shouldn't be any statute of limitations, especially on this. This is the trial that redefined and has shaped America. And to Miss Mammy's credit, it is the trial that has really saw. I mean, we've seen scenes of brutality. We've seen Black men and women being lynched. Mm-hmm. When you see a 14-year-old boy that was beaten as badly as Emmett Till was beaten, that picture never leaves your mind.
Yep.
And so, America still has a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for, Taylor? Like, a lot of a lot of apologies to make.
Oh, yes, a whole bunch.
You know what I'm saying, around racism in this country. So I just think that, it depends. And then unfortunately it comes down to who's in office that depends on how it's going to play out. So that's the big part. It's like, you might get a Biden who does these things, and then the next president, they may not. The next congressional members, they may not.
Yeah.
So it's always up and down when it comes to Black folks' pain and struggle when it comes to this in relationship to our government.
I feel like you can't count Joe Biden though, because you have to remember at one point Joe Biden was also racist. So I mean, can you really count Joe Biden?
I mean, I don't know if you can count. I don't know. I think you know what? When I look at President Joe Biden, I see a man that was taught one way, believed one way, and then he had to be shown a different way.
Okay.
Now, was he racist? I can't say. Like we can go back and forth. We don't have enough time on the show today to talk about that. But you know, it takes some time. It's going to take some time. White people and racism is going to take some time to be eradicated. Mm-hmm. They have to come to that point to say enough is enough. Black people can't do that. Yep. That's what I believe.
Yep.
We can march, we can petition, we can beg and plead, we can vote and do all of that. But when it comes to racism, white people have to say, you know what? Enough is enough.
Yep.
Because they're the ones that have benefited the most. They're the ones that wield the power, and they are the ones who are also the perpetrators.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to make the change.
Got to start from the source.
Taylor Ferguson, thank you so much for being on the show. Always a pleasure to reconnect with you. I thank you so much. Great job in talking to you. And we look forward to reconnecting with you very soon, Taylor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for being so good for the culture. We truly appreciate you.
You too. Appreciate you.
All right, folks. That's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you for joining us for the conversation today. Make sure y'all go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com. and do your due diligence, show your support, continue to show your support for Black Star Network financially, continue to show your support for us as we share information and all of the latest news and content that we have streaming on the platform. So again, go to blackstarnetwork.com. Also, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Black Star Network on Twitter, IG, and Facebook. And while you're on social media, make sure you follow yours truly, Farajii Muhammad. That's me, folks. Make sure you follow me on IG at The Real Farajii, and I'm also on Twitter at Farajii as well. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered at 6 p.m. streaming live. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process, God willing. We look forward to talking to you tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.